You had many loyal buyers who always have gone to the same provider and had no intention of changing. Well, what happened though in 2005 is that the no-frills, the cheap, the discount providers came into the market. 4 or 5 penetrated the market with heavy advertising solely on price. They made sure that everyone understood this mobile phone service is a commodity that has to be cheap, and that's all that matters. Plus, they came out with flat rates. So no more complication really in the tariffs if you have a flat rate, although consumers later realized that flat is not flat, but that's a different issue. What happened immediately is that the bargain hunters went up dramatically, because suddenly you understood that, hold on, I can win in this process, I can do something, and the need and the desire to shop and bargain hunt has been greatly increased. Whereas risk avoiders suddenly realized there is no risk anymore. I have flat rate tariffs, I can just go to the cheapest. They were reduced. The loyal buyers are most interesting too, because they suddenly saw that they were basically screwed over the whole time. They always went back to the same provider, they were loyal, and they were not told that they were just paying way too much. So that segment is really shrinking. Again, this will be different for each brand and in each market. But for our client, which is a mobile provider, it really provoked the question where he said, who do I address my whole marketing strategy to? Who am I trying to reach? Which are the clients that I actually want? So what we did is basically a whole slew of projects that came out of it. It was never intended. It really was the question, who shall we address? And I will go through it, but in the end, that was the project that probably most comprehensively changed the complete organization. And mind you, this is the 3rd largest mobile phone provider in Germany with 60 million customers, right? I mean, everything was established. And whenever we said you should change something, somebody was basically there who had to defend their previous action. So it's no easy task. It's exactly what we always talked before. How do you implement change? Based on a segmentation. I'm going to give you some examples how we changed the strategy, the product development, the whole advertising campaign, the sales strategy, and the customer service. I'll go through it. This is just conceptual, but what this stands for is that we did a baseline study. We asked a couple thousand users in Germany of that particular client of ours and of the competitors. And we asked them, which type are you? And you know, we have these segmentation questions there. And we also asked them, how are you aware of this particular provider that's our client? And how likely are you to have them in your relevant set, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we basically came up with an overall attractiveness of certain groups, and in the end it basically came down to these 2 segments were the main segments, because they were also the largest segments. And we could tell them exactly what they wanted and what they didn't want, and how that was in conflict with the strategy of that particular client. We presented that to the marketing manager, who was in shock. We presented it to the CEO, who was in shock. So they decided to take us to the Alps and lock us into a small wooden hut for 2 days and discuss the new strategy. So the whole management team and us basically went there and we're discussing, based on the segmentation and the market overview, how they should change their strategy. And they really realized that the greatest potential was to not follow the segmentation approaches that they had before. They tried milieus, they tried social values even to an extent, but not much. They tried social demographics, they tried an ABC structure, and it didn't work. They never knew what to do. So they followed this strategy. The first thing they had to do, they had to change their marketing campaign. Before, they had a more, it was supposed to be funny, but it was stupid. These 2 undercover detectives whose task it was to uncover the best deal or any product offerings that this particular provider could offer. Now, when you know that you have the bargain hunter and the risk averse as your main client group, you need to give them a rationale why this is the best deal. So they, and these 2 stupid guys didn't do it. Yeah, Nobody thought they were funny, they weren't convincing, they weren't anything. So what they did is, based on our segmentation, they did the briefing for the agencies. So ad agencies actually, for the first time, did not only get the task of find us attractive groups for us, they got profiles of what does it mean to be an attractive customer. What are the motives? How do they decide? What are they looking for? What are they not looking for? And where can you get them? So they came up with a claim that says, together we can achieve more. It was meant also towards price, because suddenly they basically said that now we are a shopping community of 60 million. With that many consumers, we can reach better deals with our suppliers, the network providers, the cell phone providers, etc. So there was a rationale and an understanding that the more we are, the better the deals we get. That was important for the discount hunters. The risk avoiders are herd people. They want to decide in groups. They want to understand that they feel safely in a community. So, since this provider was not known to be as large as they were always seen as a mouse or a fly compared to the others, although they are really big. They really had to stress, we are 60 million, we have 1,200 outlets or POS in Germany, blah, blah, blah. So they had to stress that and say, look, in this community you can feel safe and everything works out and you make the right decision. Totally geared towards them. The results, I don't have them on paper yet, but last week the client called me and said that all the KPIs for the advertising have gone up dramatically. Their sales numbers have gone up dramatically. They had the best year since the introduction of this campaign ever. So that campaign has really penetrated this company in the market and was very successful. So then they got the appetite for more and said, if this works in advertising, and they knew this was working because the feedback was good, but now we have the hard numbers. If this works, how can we put it more into operation, into other areas of operations as well? And the next field we were working on was really product development and pricing. This is more exemplary, but what it shows is that it's actually a different branch I just see. That was for kitchen appliances, but it's the same. Where you see that that's the price that a product is sold right now, you see that you have about 55% the dynamic price acceptors, those that are willing to spend more once you emotionalize them and you make them understand what great value they have. You have some risk averse and some discount hunters. And what we can do with the grips typology is then, let's say, the price is supposed to be 700 in the near future because they come up with a new version, an upgraded version of the product. Then we know that if the dominating group in that are the dynamic price acceptors, I can really play with the price. I don't have to listen to what they say, how sensitive they are to the price, but I can really up them and increase profitability significantly. And we're doing this quite successfully. Once we know which segments I have and what I have to take at face value, I can go to the level where they actually are still buying, even though they initially said I would not go beyond that level. So the profitability actually of each product, although that was a different product, increased because the margin could just be raised. Another thing that we did is that how do we bring it to the sales force? Because unless the sales force can recognize the people when they come into the shop, they will not be able to gear their service or their sales pitch toward them. So we devised a short checklist, I'll show you that later, how we could recognize somebody. And what we did is, together with the client, they had a sales workshop where they invited, I think, almost 900 to 1,000 salespeople to one city in Germany. They hired two famous actors in Germany that usually do like stand-up or impromptu comedy. And so you have a big auditorium, you have these two actors, and they were acting out different scenes at different situations in a shop. At this point, she was the salesperson and he was the customer. And they came in and were supposed to impersonate either the bargain hunter or the risk averse. it was really overdone, right? And at some point somebody said freeze, and they had to stop. And then we asked the audience, was that person treated appropriately? Was this sales discussion going in the wrong way? What should they do? And so then they gave advice and said, no, they should do this and that, and they should really ask what are they using right now, and what else do they want, and really get to the guts of it, namely understanding what the client needs, and understanding where there are still deficits, and how and which offer could match that. It was really interesting and interactive, and we did this in rounds and rounds. The goal was to make it understandable and to make it visual and plastic, really, for the salespeople to understand how do these different types interact. That worked really well. There was a lot of enthusiasm, but what we also noticed is that you need to follow this up. And how do you maintain this level of understanding? We did it in a different way. I'll get to that later. What we do is we implemented these two types in the mystery shopping. We do it 3 times a year. We do mystery shopping for them, and the mystery shopper was instructed to act a certain way. In one wave, they were a discount hunter, and in the other wave, they were risk averse. And only if the shop person could really tailor their approach to them were they getting full points there. What we found then in the course of this, that the salespeople needed more guidance. So we introduced paper pencil selling, it's called, a system for them, where basically the shop agent it was mandatory for them to go through with the client and go and check all these marks. What are you using right now? Is it only phone? Are you using data services? How many SMS are you using? Aren't you interested in mobile internet, etc., etc.? What are you lacking? So the current usage, the future demand. Then write down by hand what's your best offer and what are the advantages. And down here, don't forget cross-selling opportunities about how to ensure you're handy for damage, or little bags for your handy, the mobile phone, etc. So out of this mystery shopping, we saw that there was a demand. We devised their pencil selling. They were really happy because they never had the research agency devise any selling mechanisms for them. It's used by 84% of the salespeople already. I'd say 2/3 of them use it properly. The others just do it because